Hello, this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com, and this is episode 228 of the Sophie Art Podcast, which is a little podcast I do about the art and things. And today it's another walk and talk, and we're going to Devil's Point. Let's get into this one. Before we get into this one, I just wanted to say this is probably one of my most brain dumpy episodes I've ever done. I was talking about YouTube, parkour, and also a little bit about drawing and stuff, but it's one of those things where I didn't really know what I wanted to say, but I knew I wanted to say something, and I think I found the answer at the end. In a strange, funny way, I found the answer right at the very end when I wasn't even trying to find it. I'd spent the whole episode trying to find what I was wanting to talk about. I sort of accepted that I can't find what the answer is, and it's then that I found the answer. It's funny. So I hope you enjoy this one. The little Dennis is at home today. It's so hot out here that he decided to stay in, keeping the shade. So this one here, I've got a bunch of topics. I made a few little notes, and I'm not 100% sure which topic I'm going to go into, but I think it's going to be all about YouTube. So this one, well, the first thing is, really lucky where I live. I live in Plymouth. And what happens is, if you walk 30 minutes one way, you end up by the ocean. If you walk about 2 hours the other way, you end up on the moors, on Dartmoor, in the middle of nowhere. So it's like we've got the best of all the best bits of nature right around us. Hopefully it doesn't get too windy today. But if you're watching on, you can watch this as a video if you want. You'll be able to see the seaside, the beautiful little seaside. It's cool around here, it is. There's like little castles and all sorts of things hidden in amongst the landscape. So the topics I've got one topic which is about drawing versus design. I think I'm actually going to make that a proper podcast in the future. I've also got this one about YouTube. I've got loads of stuff to talk about on YouTube, and then I also wanted to talk a little bit about a YouTube channel called Storror. It's spelt like horror. It's STORROR. What they are what they called parkour. They're parkour free runners, and they make loads of videos, and they make them in, some of them are in first person view, so it actually looks like Mirror's Edge. If you've ever played that video game, Mirror's Edge. But a lot of their videos are actually, you're like watching them doing the stunts and stuff. So like parkour is where you climb up buildings and stuff like that. The reason I wanted to talk about it was because I was watching it, and I realised that it was actually very much like, well, I feel like parkour is a bit like an art form. It is a form of art. Like, sometimes you look at it and you think, there's a little seagull down here. Hee. Sometimes you look at it and you can well, I find myself sort of judging them a little bit, thinking they're being disrespectful or something. But then you can also look at it and see the beauty of it, because it is, what they're doing is, they're sort of like dancing through the landscape. It's very beautiful. But I realised it was very much like learning an art form. Because what happens is, when you're doing something like drawing, you have to keep practicing the same strokes over and over again. So like you do that in your sketchbook, you keep practicing the same strokes over and over in your sketchbook when it doesn't matter if you mess it up, so that when you come to the proper drawing or painting, it's almost like you've made the brushstroke muscle memory. And I noticed that's what they were doing. What they would do is they would find a location that they wanted to make a jump, and they'd find like a structure very much similar to that same location, but where it was lower down to the ground. So in other words, if they fell off low on the ground, they're not going to hurt themselves. And they keep doing that until they feel like they've mastered that move, and then they can go up high and they should be able to do it. But this is why I love it, because it's a mind game, which again is very much like art. Art is all about the mind. So I was watching these parkour videos, I found it quite inspiring actually. And what I also like is there's another thing as well. I can definitely see that they're all coming from like a place of ego, I suppose, which you could say is a bit like judging. Yeah. But they have got very big egos, but I suppose they've got to have egos really. But they all seem like nice people. I didn't mean to go off talking about that for so long. But I liked how you can watch something completely sort of random, I suppose, and find really deep meanings in it. The other thing I was going to talk about was drawing versus design. But I'm going to do that for a separate podcast, I think. Because what that's all about is actually very much similar to the same thing. Like the drawing is all about your mastery of the art form, whereas the design is more about the sort of... It is a bit like dancing. That's the thing. When these parkour runners, there's a sort of combination of free-flowingness with proper like structure. So it is very much like drawing. So I want to talk about that. But this one today, look at that, it took 8 minutes to get to the topic. That's mad. I think it's a bit because I'm afraid to talk about this topic. Because I've been wanting to talk about this topic for probably 2 months, 3 months. And it's what it's to do with, well, in my notes, I've got some notes. What I've written in my notes is, I thought how I messed up my channel, how I messed up my YouTube channel, because it all started as art, and it's evolved into something completely different, which I like, but I'm not sure YouTube likes it. So that's sort of what I'm talking about. Should you be making a channel for YouTube or for yourself? That's what I'm thinking. I put multiple topics, numbers game. Yeah, because it all sort of becomes like a numbers game, YouTube. Doing what you love, I've put. Make up your own rules. In other words, there's like algorithms behind YouTube. But what if satisfying the algorithms to have a successful YouTube channel, what if that actually goes against what you want to do? So if you want to be making videos about multiple different topics, but YouTube's not going to like that, because it wants you to sort of focus on one thing, what should you do? Should you follow your heart and have potentially less numbers, or should you sort of go to the algorithm? But then you might end up getting frustrated because you're not satisfying yourself. So I put the question, this is a question I asked myself. Why are you making videos? Love or numbers? And I've also put the word your heart. So I don't really even know where to start with this one. What happened was when I started this YouTube channel, 2014 I think it was all about art. It was nothing but art, because that's all I was doing back then. But as I got further into art, what happened was I sort of become more spiritual. And also, when I started this podcast, one of the first things that happened was I had a lucid dream. So I just wanted to start talking about these experiences, because they felt more powerful and special, I suppose, than art. Even though it was art that gave them to me. But I also started thinking, that's another thing. Should some of these experiences be actually sort of like personal experiences, and maybe they shouldn't be getting shared? I don't know, but there's part of me that I want to just talk about these things because I find them really sort of powerful. So what I've said is I've put. Well, this goes back to that thing about the Storror with those parkour runners. It's all a mind game. I do have a habit of overthinking things. So I wonder whether I should, because what happened was a few months ago I was talking to my mum about this, because I got a little bit sort of depressed, I suppose, because I wasn't seeing lots of numbers. But what happened was I'd never really cared about the numbers before. For a few years I was making videos and I wasn't even looking at the numbers. And then one day I suddenly looked at the numbers for some reason, and I sort of got a bit obsessed with them. And I saw these numbers going up and up, but then all of a sudden they stopped going up. And I would say it's actually very interesting that when I wasn't thinking about them, they were going up. As soon as I started thinking about the numbers, they actually stopped going up. Almost as if, to me, that's almost like saying, don't worry about the numbers. I think I've got the answer there. Because what my mum said was, she said, don't worry about the numbers, just make videos that you want to be making. Which is what I'd always said that to myself. I said I'd rather have one person watching these videos who really connected with them than 100 people who would just had them on in the background sort of thing, not really bothered by them. But then the other thing is, why does it even matter if anyone's watching these videos and stuff? Because that's another thing. Most of the time I'm making these videos just for myself. It's so peaceful down here. That's why I love the water. There's something about looking out at the water, it's mental. It makes me wonder so many things, what's underneath the water. There could be structures underneath there, creatures. I'm pretty sure there's actually what we would class as monsters underneath the ocean. They're not really monsters though, they're just undiscovered creatures. So that's it. So what I started thinking was, that's another thing as well. I started thinking, should I have more? I remember when I first started bringing spiritual things into the podcast. I remember I really sort of, I spent ages thinking, should I have 2 YouTube channels or should I have just one? And it goes back to that same thing again. If you want to please YouTube, then you've got to have 2 channels really. But what if having 2 channels doesn't please yourself? Because I don't like the thought of having 2 channels. It feels like you're separating things. So what this is it's, I feel like the world is set up to have everything in boxes, which is something I was thinking about with like transgender stuff. You got male and female, and that's like the 2 boxes. They had to create another box called transgender, just to put all the other people in it who didn't sort of fit into one of those boxes. Even though like a transgender person is still male, they had to make them transgender because it didn't sort of fit in with the narrative, I suppose. So in a strange way, YouTube feels like that, social media feels like that. Everything's forcing you to sort of separate everything. And I just want everything to be like together. Also, like YouTube's, it's also like hidden agendas, I suppose. Because I remember in the old days, in the good old days, you could make a video on YouTube and put something like, it could be a video, say, about your cat or something. Yeah, it could be a video about like walking down the beach or something, and you could have made the video. Hey, there's a golf ball down here. Woo! Somebody's. Hey, look, watch. I'll see if I can. Oh. What was I saying then? Something about. Yeah, you could make a video about going to the beach, and you could have made the title could have been walking down the beach, and like that was good enough. But now you've got to make all these like clickbaity titles. So it'd have to be something like getting attacked by the seagulls, and then half the time you watch the video and the title's not even in the video. Getting attacked by the seagulls. Hello! I love seagulls. Oh, that's a shame. Somebody set fire to the bushes over here. Reminds me of my youth. I used to love setting fire to things. What they've done is they've set a fire to like a bush or something. I'm actually surprised the whole thing didn't go up, because the grass is so dry. I would have thought, God, it's actually melted the tarmac. That's mental. They've actually melted the tarmac. Yeah, so even like, hey, that's why there's loads of seagulls. There's a lady feeding seagulls up here. Seagulls. Oh, I don't want to disturb them. How cool they are. I'm going to try and walk around the perimeter without disturbing these little seagulls. How cool they are. So there's definitely like a game. You have to play a game on YouTube. So I'm just thinking about that. Where else was it? Doing what you love. Yeah, make up your own rules. So like everyone says you've got to have 2 channels. But make up your own rules. Maybe you don't. I'm going to put this golf ball downstairs. There's little like hiding places down here. You could sit under. Actually, it'd be quite. There's like these little sort of. They're almost like little cupboards down here. So I could actually imagine sitting down here one day. If it was like raining, you could sit in there. I think that'd be quite. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 of them on that side. I could imagine like 7 monks sitting in these little cupboards here, all meditating on a stormy night. So I've been thinking about it a lot. Why am I making videos? What do I want to be making videos of as well? So like this podcast, I love doing these walk and talks. Because in a strange way, I sort of, half the time I don't know what I'm going to say. So I'm sort of like listening to see what it says. Your heart. I haven't got much more to say really, just that there's a lot of confusion. But I think really it doesn't matter. There's loads of these little cupboards all around here. I wonder what they were used for. What you've got is you've got like this massive long stone wall with all these little alcoves. It's very strange because you do sort of wonder whether they were sort of like you could put people in there, and if they had doors on the front or something, or little bars, I can imagine them sort of imprisoning people in them. And there is like these round what do you call them? Round sort of things to sort of put, as if that's where you would bolt things onto. Very interesting. Seagulls! It started with a kiss. I never knew it would come to this. Little van in the distance, driving along. Trees, lots of trees. I knew this would be a very strange podcast today, because I haven't sort of thought about the topic. I haven't thought about it enough, so I'm sort of, I don't really know what I'm trying to say. That's why I'm still talking, is I can feel that I haven't said what I want to say. It's very much like sort of digging. You're digging for the answers, and the only way to find it is to keep talking. I've never walked down this bit before. Going into uncharted territory. Wonder where this goes. I think what I'm trying to say is it possible to be successful on you. That's what's successful there. Why does numbers have to be successful? See, that's the thing. I suppose that's the biggest question. What is successful? Oh, cool. You get down onto the beach down there. I'm going to do that, I think. You can get down onto the pebble beach. It's all like pebbly. Pebbles on a beach. Right. Kicked around, displaced by feet. Oh, like broken stones. They were trying to get home. Down like a loser's reach. Going down onto the pebble beach. Hey, it's that lady again. She probably thinks I'm following her. I feel like I'm going to go over this way. I'm going to jump over the barrier. Go around this way. Yay! I'm going to do some parkour. That's the thing. The young version of me, when I was young, I would have been doing parkour. I know I would have. Yeah, I think it would be so fun because it's like it's a fear-based thing. Some of the stuff they're doing, you wouldn't believe it. Like they were jumping off of a it was massively high. It was a building, and you're thinking if they fall off that, they're probably dead. It's mental, it is. That's the thing. They've got such a mastery of the art that they make it look easy as well. Because you sort, hey, yes, little tadpole type things and little fishies in the water. Yay! Oh yeah. Wonder what they're thinking. Oh, I wonder whether they can see me. I often wonder things like that. Like when you see like a spider or something in the bathroom, it must be able to see me. And is it looking, thinking, what is that? Does it see like a big creature, or does it, like maybe like fish, see completely differently? So I might just look like something completely, very much like what would God look like to us? Unimaginable. They might think we're God. Oh, one of these fishies is so cool. He's just like, he's absolutely still, and yet there's loads of motion. So he's like frantically flapping his wings, or his flipper things, but he's perfectly still. That's cool, that is. There's loads of them in there, there is. Yeah, the young version of me, I was well into stuff like that, parkour. We were like climbing up the trees, jumping out the trees. But back then well, I didn't know nothing about parkour, but apparently on one of those videos they said it actually, there was a bloke in the, I think it was 1920s, he was doing parkour back in the 20s, 100 years ago. It makes you wonder, what made him do that? What is it that made the first... I often wonder that. Like somebody who climbs through... Hey, there's a seagulls watching me. Hello. Rah, 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 rah. Rah, 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 rah. I wonder if he goes around eating the little fishies. Yeah, well, when somebody does something like really, like absolutely bonkers, I often think, what is it that made them do that? Like what? How did they know that they could do that, for instance? Like there must have been somebody who did it for the first time, like a jump that's impossible. Well, it looks impossible. Somebody must have just... So there must be loads of people along the way who have died, sort of trying things. There's like a little cave down here. I like this place. I like these little fishies. Yeah, that's another thing. When you start drawing and things, you look at the world completely differently because you see everything as shapes. And I imagine that these parkour runners, they see the world completely differently. Whereas we look around and see buildings and stuff, I feel like they actually just see obstacles. So I've got a real appreciation for these parkour runners. One of the blokes broke his finger last night though. I watched one of the videos. He jumped and dislocated his finger. And I think he was more upset that he had to go to hospital than that he had sort of messed up his finger. Which I sort of like that. It's almost like he accepted that he made the mistake. So he wasn't beating himself up or nothing, he just accepted that it's almost like, you know, hurting yourself's part of the job, I suppose. Which I think there's lessons in that as well, because how many times have I been doing a drawing or something and I've messed it up and I start beating myself up? Really, you should look at it as part of the experience. Dun dun dun. Something else I wonder as well is, what are rocks? Like what created all these rocks? I wonder what this world looked like thousands of years ago. I'd love to be able to go back in time, see what the world looked like. I think that's it for this one. Hey! That's the sound of the gong. How cool is that? I threw the pebble and it hit a glass bottle. British flaglet. I do feel like we've got the best flag. I like that flag. I also like the Brazilian flag. It's quite sort of an exciting colour combination. Somebody actually told me that at work. They said, I do that dun dun dun. Hey look, see that? There's like there's a gap here. into. There's a gap behind this structure. Oh, this is interesting. Hey, look, you can actually see inside the building there. Makes you wonder what sort of stuff's been. Stinks of piss around here. I think people have been. I suppose that is a good place to have a wee. They've got these little iron windows. It does look like a prison around here. Makes me wonder what's underneath the ground, you know, because I bet you these structures actually link under the ground. That's what I'm thinking. Oh look, it's so hot, right? Even the I had one of these the other day. Little whatchamacallums, like blackberries or something. What amazed me was how much flavour they had. They got a lot more flavour than ones you get in the shop. There's another little stairway down here. Hello, little pigeon. Oh, this is cool. Like another little platform. This would be a really good place to watch the sunset and look at the stars, I think, because you'd be sheltered from the wind. There's not much light around here, I'd imagine, at night time. Oh, cool, pigeon. Look, he's having fun, he is. He was just like soaring through the air, he was. Hello! Bloke out on his kayak. I always imagine, like, what would happen if I saw sort of like a disaster, somebody drowning or something. Quite interesting. I'm going to leave it there, I think. What would I say the moral of the story is? I think the moral of the story is I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. All that's left is this week's inspirational quote. And what's it going to be? I don't know who it is. There was a bloke on one of those Storror videos. What he said was concentrate. And he said, focus the mind. Focus the mind, he said. This week's inspirational quote. Focus the mind. That's what I'm lacking, that's it. Yeah, that's what I'm lacking. My YouTube is probably lacking focus. Isn't it brilliant, like how nature can actually, like a little weed, is so strong that it can actually break through like concrete. I find that amazing. It's also created like a star, like a ninja star. Yeah. Plop. Walking at him, look who's in front of me. Lady with her dog. She's going to think I'm stalking her, you know.